今天这期节目是我上个月在布鲁克斯总部与 Brooks 创新发展部门经理的一次深度交流。我们共同探讨了布鲁克斯 Hyperion 竞速家族的新产品、蓝线实验室的产品创新方法论，以及行业内新的发展动态。这期节目时长较长，但全是干货。对于跑鞋行业感兴趣的小伙伴，一定要看到最后。
Before we dive into the specific, could you give a brief introduction about you and your role at Brooks?
Sure. My name is Brian Bark. I'm an innovation product development manager. I've been with Brooks for about 10 years now.
Okay.
Mostly on the innovation side, working on a variety of different projects that span new compounds, such as our supercritical foam portfolio,
Yes.
as well as several of our blue line projects.
So you are a runner as well?
Yes. Yep.
So can you share your experience in trail runnings or marathon run? Your personal best?
Yeah, so I would say I primarily am a trail and ultra runner.
Okay.
I run for the Brooks trail team, and I also specialize in distances over 50 kilometers. So typically 100 kilometer, 160 kilometer, 100-mile races in the mountains are typically what I like to run.
There are three very important roles in a shoe development. Developer, the designer, and the product line manager.
That's right.
So this is a triangle relationship between the three different roles. Can you make it clear what's the role they play in shoe development?
Right. So the product line manager is the voice of the runner. So they're constantly keeping an eye on what the market is looking for, what are consumers and runners demanding. So they essentially set the vision, the consumer vision for the product.
Yes.
The designer will actually concept in 2D and then in 3D the representation of that runner need. So they're essentially drawing their dream of the shoe based on what the runner is looking for. And then the product developer kind of sits in the middle and has to figure out how to build the shoe. So as a product developer, which is my background, you're managing the materials side, you're managing the construction, you're managing the full execution, you're managing the costing of the shoe, as well as its manufacturability.
Okay, so your role is like a developer.
Yes.
So I know you are the man behind DNA Tuned. Okay, so can you share more details about this new material, this compound development about DNA Tuned?
Sure, yeah, DNA Tuned was an exciting compound to work on. I would say the insights go back to 2018 when we first started working on supercritical foams, where we started to really see that you could have essentially the same foam compound, but it was foamed to two different cell sizes, so larger cell and small cell, that had remarkably different physical properties. And so we took hold of that insight back then and used that to really drive forward what sort of cell size would be optimized for experiences within the shoes that we're developing at the time. For example, we were developing the first Hyperion Tempo, and we knew that the DNA Flash compound that we're working on had to be small cell because small cell DNA Flash actually creates a really high energy return and really reduces the weight of the foam. When we started developing DNA Loft version 3, it was a different compound, but we knew that the execution could be a larger cell version that really prioritized cushioning while still retaining great energy return and weight properties, but the primary benefit was cushioning. And so we started to look at how we could combine these physical properties into one midsole that could really give us this tuned experience of having the right experience exactly where you need it under the foot. And so that kind of kicked off this project of DNA Tuned around 2020. So it was a long-term project where we're really experimenting with the compound, the cell size, and then the location of the cell size relative to your foot and the midsole. And over time and several rounds of testing, we learned that if you place the small cell closer to your foot, it provides a really nice, resilient underfoot experience without sacrificing the cushioning and the comfort that you get by having the larger cell around the small cell. By placing the larger cell on the outside, it provides a really great tub of foam that provides great cushioning and also that translucency effect that we get from the small cell that's located inside. So you get this really great combination of compound and geometry that offer the most cushioned experience we've ever had without feeling like you're slowing down. It's still quite energizing. It's fun to run in. Ultimately, that paired with this really maximal execution in the Glycerin Max gave us that experience that we're really looking for.
You know, the Glycerin Max was one of the most popular cushioning daily trainer in China last year.
Yes.
Yes, and the DNA Tune has been used in the cushioning shoes. Is there any possibility, like in the future, in the Hyperion lineup, we use the same or similar technology like DNA Tuned with two different sizes, provide different capabilities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we look at tuning as a concept, we do feel like it can exist greater than just within our primary daily training cushioning product. It may not be the same compound or the same exact execution, but we're certainly looking at how we tune compounds to optimize performance for those faster day products.
Okay, so why I ask this question, because we know that the brand new Hyperion Elite 5 still use the DNA Gold, which is 100% PIBA supercritical foam. And the upper and the lower layer of the foam has the same density. Is there any possibility we do the same thing like DNA Gold, use the PIBA foam?
Yeah, so today we're using pure DNA Gold, and that's for us the highest performing foam, the best foam for race day because of its unique combination of incredibly lightweight, really high energy return, and great cushioning. As we look at foam compound development into the future, as I alluded to previously, we're definitely looking at how we tune the experience while still being tip of the spear in terms of weight and energy return. So without giving away too much, it's definitely an area that we're exploring and looking into, because we do feel like there's an ability to tune the performance specifically to the runner's goals and what they're looking to achieve on race day.
And another question about the DNA Gold. So it's 100% PIBA foam. PIBA used to be seen like the best of the best of super foam, but there are some other compounds like ATPU or TPEE foam. Can you give some details about what's the difference between the different compounds? PIBA still the best of the best?
Yeah, so when we're looking at super foams, there's a couple considerations. I think number one is performance. We want pinnacle performance, spare no expense. We really are optimizing the material for that elite athlete, and then also figuring out how we can go into shoes that are a little bit more approachable by most runners. So when taking those things into consideration, PIBA is by far still the most performance-based material. It's just quite expensive. And that's no secret, right? It's very, very expensive. I think the other thing to mention is that how the material is processed really contributes to its performance. And so the thing that's been evolving in addition to the materials have been how we foam materials. And so if you utilize a certain supercritical foaming process with PIBA, you can really maximize its performance. If you also use a different supercritical foaming process with ATPU or TPE, you can really maximize performance. But still, at the end of the day, pairing both the process and material is what yields kind of that best result. And so what a lot of brands are finding, us included, as we experiment with other compounds, is we are able to get similar performance as PIBA by really dialing in the polymer side as well as the process side.
And let's move on to the Max 3.
Sure.
So this is a big update compared with its predecessor.
Very big update.
It's super high stack, 46 millimeter in the heel and 40 millimeter in the forefoot. It's totally different because the first generation of Hyperion Max is non-plated shoe.
Correct.
And it's a regular size of stack height. So what's the difference from the first generation to the third generation?
So we really saw that the market was evolving in terms of how they perceive the use of a plate and also the incorporation of super foams. Yeah. And so, when we saw an evolution from the Hyperion Tempo to the first Hyperion Max, it was really just making some modest changes to the stack height to increase the amount of foam, but still keeping a very natural feeling shoe without having a plate. As the line progressed and as technology progressed and we were able to develop foam like DNA Gold, it really served as that unlock to really go high on the stack height without much of an impact on weight. We also understand that runners want something that feels fast, that they're able to train in daily for easier runs, their workouts, that aren't going to be as aggressive as a full marathon race shoe.
Okay, so this means that the Hyperion Max 3 is suitable for every training sessions. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. It's one of the most versatile shoes we have in our line.
Does this mean that the fourth generation will go higher, like 50 in the heel? Is it possible?
It is possible. I think that, we do get to a point where you just start adding more material, which inevitably increases the weight of the shoe. So we have to be really mindful about how we balance the experience and the expectation that runners have of a shoe like this versus the amount of material we actually put underfoot. And right now we feel like we're at a pretty good balance in terms of how we incorporate the use of DNA Flash version 2 as well as DNA Gold. And so that 4640 stack height seems to be the sweet spot here.
Okay, so I noticed that the nylon plate of the Max 3 has a cutout in the forefoot.
It does, yep.
And I also noticed that the carbon plate of Elite 5, it has a lot of holes in different areas, which this carbon plate technology comes from Aries.
Yes.
Used technologies like 3D molding. I think Brooks is very conservative to use plate in shoe and also keeps a balance between the longitudinal stiffness and the torsional flexibility.
Yeah, so we know that it's incredibly important to weigh those factors that you mentioned. Additionally, weight becomes a critical factor of this because if we have an incredibly rigid, stiff carbon plate, it can tend to be a little bit heavier. However, working with Aris allows us to optimize the stiffness for the runner that's going to be utilizing this shoe. And something that we did actually for the first time in the HE5 was we actually tuned the stiffness based on the size. So really the stiffness of the plate in the smaller sizes is greater because we can assume that the force that the runner is generating is a little bit less. They might be a smaller runner versus a larger runner running in a larger size. The plate needs to be stiff. If we just maintain the same layup of carbon fiber across the size run, then the smallest sizes would actually become stiffer because they're shorter. Okay. And so we had to really work closely with Aris to tune the stiffness in a way that it is suitable for runners of a specific size that tend to be a certain.
I noticed that there is a cutout in the medial side. Some runners may worry about the stability about this kind of design because they thought if the cutout in the lateral side, there will be more compressions in the lateral side and will be more supportive in the medial side.
Yeah, so similar to what we did on the Hyperion Elite, we really took inspiration from the pressure map data that we gathered for this project and applied it here, but just on a bit more of an approachable scale. So we found that if we are able to cut out the material in the medial midfoot, yet reinforce it with the speedball plate, we don't lose any support. We also have to look at the entire geometry as a whole. So making sure that the lateral midsole is recessed enough to displace. Also with the configuration of DNA Gold and Flash V2 positioned in a way that allows the lateral heel to decouple is really important. But also we're counteracting any potential loss in stability by having the plate move further out and then creating additional release in the lateral heel.
So this kind of design will not lose the stability.
That's right.
There is a plate here.
Yep.
But if there is no plate, this will be a problem.
Absolutely. Yep. So we have to look at the entire midsole as a system.
Because there already has some like technologies molding the plate with the foam together.
Yep.
Is there any possible in the next generation?
Yeah, you're kind of reading my mind in terms of where we're looking to take this shoe as well as the rest of the Hyperion franchise, because it is, having a traditional stock fit midsole where you have 2 layers of material and a plate, that requires glue and assembly, which adds stiffness. And yes. Sure, these shoes are generally supposed to be longitudinally stiff, but it can be too stiff. And so something that we're always working on, similar to what we did with DNA Tuned, is how do we create this sort of midsole system without the need for additional glue layers. And so tuning the midsole by inherently combining 2 different compounds with 2 different physical properties is something that we're looking to apply hopefully in the future with these sort of product.
So, and I also seen a lot of cutout in the outsole rubber. Mm-hmm. Is this cutout logical, the placement?
Yeah, where again, it's primarily mapped based on pressure data. And so, yes. As the runner's coming through their strike, they put a lot of pressure on their the lateral forefoot, and then the pressure moves in towards their big toe as they toe off. So we're really trying to remove material where there is less pressure that we see.
And let's move on to the Hyperion 3. Actually, I'm a big fan of the Hyperion Tempo.
Yeah.
Yeah, this shoe is kind of like bouncier and light-weighted version of Ghost 17.
Ah, yeah.
So is there any positioning changes in the Hyperion?
Right, so the Hyperion Tempo was kind of that original lower to the ground, yes. faster training shoe.
Yes.
But again, as consumer preferences have evolved, there's still a big desire to have something a little bit more simple, like we have in the Hyperion Tempo, but just with a little bit more cushion. And that's kind of what drove us to evolve the Hyperion Tempo to what the Hyperion 3 is. So the foam has been updated since then, as well as the additional stack height. But it still gives us a really great platform to run fast. But I would say this shoe now is a little bit more versatile than the original Hyperion Tempo.
As a third generation, still have the GTS version?
We don't have the GTS version anymore in the 3rd version.
Okay.
And that's really just to maintain a shoe that where we really want to prioritize simplicity.
So do you have any plan to expand the Hyperion family to meet more niche markets?
Sure. Right now we feel that the 3-shoe combination for the Hyperion franchise, outside of our spikes, offer really good coverage in terms of what most consumers are looking for. However, I think what you're talking to and what you're alluding to are needs that maybe the runner has where they do prefer still a lower to the ground experience. Yes. We do have shoes coming into the line that plan to address those sort of things. I can't speak specifically to that now, but
is it?
Maybe. While we will not currently expand the Hyperion line beyond the current number of shoes, we still have products like the Launch as well, which actually is a really great daily trainer, which I think reminds me more of the original Hyperion Tempo than where the Hyperion 3 is today.
Because a lot of brands have a lot of carbon-plated
yep.
shoe, but Brooks has only one carbon-plated shoe and one nylon shoe, speed training shoe. But a lot of brands, they have like top-tier carbon-plated
yep.
super shoe, and secondary level of carbon-plated shoe and carbon-plated speed training shoe, and nylon or carbon-plated shoe for general everyday runners.
Sure.
A lot of carbon-plated shoe lineup. So from your point of view, is this a good thing for the industry or runners?
So I think right now, runners have a lot of options. They have more options than they've ever had before. And so I think what's really important for Brooks is making sure that we're addressing the market, we're addressing the need for distinction, as well as providing choice for the runners. And so I guess, you know, if I were to be a little bit more specific, we will probably have a few more shoes that kind of exist within this category in the coming years. They may look a little bit different than what you see today, but we want to make sure that every product has a reason for living, and that they showcase very distinct benefits from one shoe to the next. I think what we see a lot in the market right now are maybe 5 or 6 shoes that are all very closely spaced. And so it makes it hard for the brand to really showcase the distinction from one to the next. And then we feel that could potentially cause some confusion with consumers, because maybe they have too many choices and they choose nothing. And so we want to make sure that every shoe has a distinct purpose for why they exist.
And let's move on to more topics about the Blue Line Lab.
Sure.
I have seen that there are a lot of different cross-category shoes was developed by Blue Line Lab.
Yeah.
Like Catamount, the trail running shoes from Lab, and Hyperion Tempo Lab, Hyperion Elite from Lab, and Glycerin Max, the cushioning daily trainer, comes from the Blue Line Lab.
Yep.
So what's the relationship between the Blue Line Lab and the general product department?
That's a great question. So the Blue Line Lab exists within our innovation team in which I work. And really the Blue Line Lab serves as this innovation accelerator. So when we are developing a new compound or new technology, new upper material, you know, one of the biggest challenges that any brand faces with a new technology is scalability. So you develop something tip of the spear like DNA Gold or DNA Flash at the time. How do you bring it to market in a way where it addresses a large volume of shoes that we previously haven't had before? And so one of the things that we thought of was trying to create a shoe that addresses a hole in our line. And so the Hyperion Tempo was that for kind of our speed category at the time, in addition to the Hyperion Elite. The Catamount was that in our line for trail. None of those shoes had predecessors before. And so the Blue Line Lab really served to pioneer a new category of shoes that we had never had at Brooks. It also allows us to scale a technology, validate it in the market, and then proliferate it to bigger models. So for example, the Aurora BL was the first shoe to debut DNA Loft version 3. It also debuted a very futuristic design language towards hinting at the Glycerin Max. But we use the Aurora BL from a product development standpoint and a manufacturing standpoint to really learn about how to work with Loft V3. And since that introduction, we've now proliferated Loft version 3 into the Glycerin line, into the Ghost, and the Adrenaline. And so it really started as that shoe to help validate the technology that allowed us to really scale it into multiple models.
So if we see some debut of new technology, new lineup, they all come from the lab?
Yes, yeah, that's typically how we bring new technology to market. And we really want to come in strong with the distinct point of view, a runner-focused story, and a runner-focused benefit.
You did a lot of scientific data backup, like you do the scientific experiment, and this data may different from the real runner's feedback. How you translate the scientific, biomechanical data into the real runner's experience? Yeah,
ultimately at the end of the day, the best validation tool we have is wear testing. And so we can make a shoe that's the most biomechanically correct shoe, but the runner might hate it.
And that's my point.
Exactly. And so we really have to weigh that consideration, and that's where we're really leaning into experience-led biomechanics, where we really need to focus in on what the runner is asking for, what the runner wants, and then providing them what they need through the scientific lens of biomechanics as well as physiology.
And I'm also curious about where your like inspirations initially come from. Is come from like the hit point from runners, or you just follow the trends, the industry trends?
Yeah, so we look at what other industries are doing, such as the automotive industry, the medical industry, just the foam industry in general.
Yes.
And we're always looking for how we can apply new innovations from those industries into footwear.
Yes.
We're also obviously keeping an eye on the market, but also really trying to anticipate what the runner needs before they actually say they need it.
Yes.
And so we have an entire team devoted to consumer insights that are trying to understand the latent needs of runners and bring that back to the product teams.
Yes.
That can help us inform our product creation decisions so that when we develop this product, we know that the runner is going to want it.
So that's all. That's all my questions.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, I got a lot from your insights and expertise about the industry, about Brooks' innovative product. And I'm really looking forward that you and your Blue Line Lab will bring more innovative products in the future.
We have a lot of exciting stuff coming down the line. I promise. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Thank you.
My pleasure.